All right, welcome into 305 guys on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. We're going to talk Dolphins and Heat today. We're sponsored by Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. Put down $5. You get $50 to play. Look, I don't want to brag, but I've won 5 straight days.
Dude, you should brag.
So not only are you losing money right now if you don't sign up and get the $50, but you're also losing money by not signing up, using the code 5, getting the $50, and following me. And I know I'm jinxing myself, but I'm putting myself on the spot. I've hit 5 straight 2-player plays on the NBA. Of course, that's not all you can play there. You can play the NHL, MLS, college football, and NFL when they come back. Could have played the Masters last weekend. And it's legal in the state of Florida again. So just use the code 5. This also helps keep us in business. I'd like to mention that. Use the code 5. Get $50 to play right away. We don't ask. Look, we're not even asking you to spend any money on us. You don't have to do anything. Literally, we're giving you money and telling you it helps us. So use the code 5, FIVE. Put down your $5. Get $50 to play right away. All right, speaking of money and speaking of deals, the Dolphins appear ready to trade another star, but it's not the star you all want them to trade. And this is what happens with contracts. And when you make certain mistakes and you extend Tyreek Hill's deal, and now you're kind of stuck with a guy who can't stay out of the news for a day and a half, is that you may be forced now, because you're in this kind of reshaping of your roster and your salary structure, you may be forced to trade one of the 3 or 4 best players on your team, which is what Jalen Ramsey still is. Alex, give us the latest if you can, and then we'll talk about this and we'll get to Heat on the other side of this.
All right. So, the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey have come to what is being described as a mutual agreement for the Dolphins to shop him in a trade. And this is one of the, and I'll get to Chris Grier's latest on that in a second, but this is one of those things that it's like, it's a little hard for me to stomach, like knowing how good Ramsey is and can still be, but also knowing, he's on the back 9 of his prime, which is not the ideal situation for someone's trade value, right? I mean, you're probably looking at maybe a 4th round pick being like the highest end of what you could get back in a trade for him. And at this point, the 4th round pick doesn't really, to me, match what he can actually produce on the field for the next season or two. But you mentioned there are other, salary implications there. Obviously one of the questions that I had when I saw that Jalen Ramsey is being shopped is, does he want out? Is he wanting to jump ship and go somewhere else? Does he have an issue with, the direction the Dolphins are going in? So what Chris Grier said today, this is courtesy of Cameron Wolf on X. So Dolphins general manager Chris Grier, after a couple of weeks of discussions with cornerback Jalen Ramsey and his agent, says it was the best decision to move forward towards a trade. Now, Grier says that Ramsey did not ask for a trade or a salary tweak, but they decided a trade is best for both of them, and that is in process right now. So, yeah, it sounds to me as though the Dolphins probably decided they needed some kind of a tweak. This was not necessarily Ramsey's idea or decision, but that he agreed to let them move forward with this shopping.
Right. And there has been speculation about this. As always, our guy CK was on top of it first. He made this suggestion a couple of days ago on Twitter. You should follow Chris Kaufman from 3 yards per carry at CK Parrott. And he talked about kind of the direction that they would go and this sort of total reshaping of the roster, which is something that the Rams did recently. Here's a couple of things I take out of this. The first thing is Chris Grier has obviously been assured he has long-term job security. He has to have been, right? To me, that's the number one take here.
Yeah.
Because they're literally letting him embark upon another rebuild. That's what this feels like. You can call it a reload or a reshaping. But when you're moving off some of your best players and you did not spend a ton of money in free agency, what the owner is basically telling you is hold tight for right now. You don't have to do anything to save your job. Your job is safe. That's what this feels like. And so I know that's not going to please
Can
Dolphin
I ask you
fans.
a quick question? How many GMs, and this may be an unanswerable question without doing hours of research, but how many general managers in major professional sports are given this many opportunities to rebuild the same franchise without ever actually winning anything? Like, I gotta say, like, maybe there have been some championship general managers who then get, to do a more rebuilds after that. But I don't know if I can, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone in the comments can point out like a bunch of examples, but I don't know if I can think of another general manager in major sports who hasn't actually produced a roster that's won a championship or anywhere close to it, who gets this many different opportunities to rebuild.
Daryl Morey is the only one I can think of.
Yeah, that's
but caveat, they got very far in Houston. They did get to the conference finals. He made the Harden trade. He kind of lived off that for a while. He stayed in Houston a long time, but they did make a conference finals. They did consistently make the playoffs. I understand NBA is different from NFL, but they were closer to a championship than Chris Grier has ever been in Miami. That's for sure. And then in Philadelphia, he's been given the opportunity. Well, he's the fourth general manager of this build. It started as Sam Hinkie, where they were doing the process thing, and then Elton Brand. Jerry Colangelo first, actually Brian Colangelo, and then then the latest one was Elton Brand, and then it was Morey. But Morey now is going to be given an opportunity to rebuild it after MB got hurt, even with Paul George being his acquisition. That is a horrible contract now. But it is very rare, and it is totally contradictory to everything the Dolphins used to be, and it feels like they've swung too far the other way. The complaint was always, well, they're changing regimes every 2-3 years. They're firing one guy and not the other guy. We didn't mean then after that keep the same guy for 15 years or whatever without any success, but it seems like that's the lesson that Ross took from all of that. I don't really understand it. I don't have an issue so much with the Jalen Ramsey move, depending on what it nets. It probably isn't going to net more than a third or fourth round pick. You didn't give up that much to get him. So it's not really about compensation, but it's about the message that's being sent here, which is that we don't think we can compete this year. That's what I'm taking from it. Now, maybe I'll be wrong. In the NFL, things can change pretty quickly, but
listen, I agree. Like, you're not going to trade a former All-Pro defensive back who's
still good.
Still good. Like, he's still in his prime. Like, he's on the tail end of his prime. You're talking about former All-Pro defensive back who's still in his prime. Yeah, you don't trade that guy away if you're thinking you can win this year.
No, and look, he struggled at the beginning of the season. He had some not so great moments early on. But if you look at his overall metrics, he was an elite corner. Here's the other problem, and I see this from Indade. But it says, as long as it results in improving the trenches, the Dolphins will be better for it. I get that. But see, this is the whole thing. It's like the whack-a-mole approach with the Dolphins. It's like they're going to create another hole now. So it's like, okay, we're going to improve in the trenches. How long is that going to take? Yes, I've called for that. Yes, you've called for that. Yes, everybody's called for that. But like in the process of doing that, you don't have a number one corner. Your other corner that you acquired last year, you've already parted ways with, was it Kendall Fuller? And so you don't have it. You re-signed Kohu. He's not a number one. I thought he had a strong end to the season. So you're really thin at that position. Now, corners can come in and play right away. So this kind of means that you're leaning towards a corner perhaps in the draft, but you got to get the guy that you want. And again, if you're going to go after a corner, then you're not improving the trenches with that particular pick. So it's like you're creating another hole. Like, if the corners can't hold up, then what happens in the trenches is not going to matter that much. And this is my overall problem. And then we'll get to the heat on the other side, Alex, but I want to have you comment on this. Is that first thing, Tyreek is the guy who should be traded, but financially, I guess it doesn't make sense right now. Okay. But because that's where they have another player who could ascend to the number one spot in Waddle. They don't have that in the defensive backfield. But the other, and they signed Westbrook, who I think actually is going to help them with some size on the outside. But my overall problem with this is that it's like we're just going to do another version of the same thing we did before. Like it didn't work. He was given 6 years. He was given all these draft picks. He had the Tunsil trade. He had all of this stuff. He built the team. It failed. Why are you giving him the keys to do it again? Like, I understand the Dolphins doing this. I get it. But then if Grier's weakness is the offensive line and the trenches in general, why are you then saying, okay, do a new build like that? Okay. That's where Indade is saying this. And I understand the point. They made the mistake. No point in perpetuating a Florida approach. Grier should have been gone, but here we are. Right. But I get it. But that's my problem, is doing it both ways. Yes, try the new approach with a different person. with a different person. Like,
yeah.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, and all these moves and like the new needs that are being created by these moves, it's making me like harder to even identify what it's going to take to make this team better. I mean, I guess trenches is still the obvious place where you would start, right? Securing that, trying to build your roster from the inside out, right? And like to me, this even moves me like way farther away from, you know, the Tua debate that every Dolphin fan likes to have, because this to me makes it like even harder to identify, is him being like really good but maybe not elite. Like, is that something that's holding the team back? Like, we're farther away from knowing that now, because again, like if your trenches aren't fixed next year, and if you have holes at cornerback, you know, you may like Tua may play really well next year, but you might win 7 games. And then like, you don't really know like how much of this is on the quarterback being not quite good enough and needing to find a true franchise guy, or is it just a matter of fixing everyone else? Because at least I thought, you know, as of, let's say 2 seasons ago, when, you know, before Tyreek Hill had all of this extra drama, and when he was still seemingly physically very much in his prime a couple seasons ago, when the Dolphins were at least making the playoffs, like you could say like, hey, they're really, really close and the quarterback is healthy for the full season, so maybe we can really evaluate how much of this is Tua. Like now, I don't even know I don't even know where to start with this team. They seem to have, I'm not going to say holes for sure, but they've got a lot of question marks heading into this coming season. So I don't know what to do with that. And then to really count on the same general manager who didn't get it right the last time around, because we were, you know, with all the moves, all the aggressive trades the Dolphins made, Ramsey, for Tyreek Hill, you know, for some of the defensive guys that they brought in, like we really thought, okay, this is your championship window is now open, and this is a team that should legitimately be competing for titles. They failed. I'm sorry, they failed. And now same guy gets to blow it up and do it all over again. Doesn't make sense. I think you're muted.
I said right point, but wrong pronoun. He failed. That's the whole point here.
Yeah.
Is you're giving him another opportunity to do it when Ross gave him every single resource, and then he did some good things to get additional resources, like the Tunsil trade, etc. Although, you know, you look back, you had to give up a guy in Minka Fitzpatrick during all that, who ended up becoming an All-Pro. I understand, again, the issues with Flores, but it's not like he was hamstrung. Like, that's where I don't have the issue with Ross. Ross is basically giving his people, he's saying, go do what you need to do. Now it seems he's taking a different approach. Okay, I'm fine with that, because the other approach didn't work. But then why the same person in charge? And the comment from Indeed, let Marvin Allen, of course, been part of Kansas City and other organizations, make the choices and do what modern business do. Let unqualified people fail up and promote Grier to position this title alone. I mean, I feel like that's ultimately what's going to happen here, but I don't feel like it's what's happening right now. Aaron Andrews, they have to hit on 5 of 10 draft picks, which is hard to do. I mean, look at Grier's track record. I mean, at times he can hit on 4. Other years he's hit on 1. It looks better when we're doing this thing on the top 25 draftees in history. Husam's doing it. I got to check on him because I don't know what happened to that. But we rank the top 25, and like literally, you can hardly find a guy from 2000 on. So this just wasn't just Grier. Wow. This was also Jeff Ireland and
Rick Spielman,
and Rick Spielman. Yeah. It's been a long litany of Randy Mueller, long litany of mistakes, but it is hard to hit that. This comes in from Adam, and I want to address this. Will there be any Panthers coverage? Also, this is all on Grier, no experience CB. Yes, there will be Panthers coverage. Alex Baumgartner has a new story up on the site. Check out 5reasonsports.com, and we'll be doing we'll do some coverage on here, but we're also going to do more as the playoffs start. They're waiting on an opponent right now, or the exact seeding to see how this plays out. But obviously, they're in the best position of all the franchises down here, and that continues. So we'll cover them. All right, on the other side of this, we will touch on the Heat briefly here, just on quick predictions for tomorrow night. But we'll see what happens with the Ramsey deal. But again, CK Parrott, that's who you got to follow. He called this 2 or 3 days ago, and you should check out that thread that he did on that on Twitter. All right, do want to tell you about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Our friends over at All Pro Construction Builders. Hurricane season around the corner. Quality is their specialty. If you need hurricane windows, and yes, you do, if you have a home, because we know how South Florida can be unforgiving as you get to hurricane season, get it done now. Okay, you'll get the free estimate from Danny and his family but it did because it's a family business and additional by big Heat fans, big Panther, Dolphin fans, Hurricane fans as well. But also, not only will you get the free estimate, but you'll get 5.5% off your entire order if you mention Five Guys or the 5 Reasons Sports Network. 305 Guys, we changed our name. 305 is appropriate. 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. And yes, Indade is right about this. Slick Rick's Scoops. He had it. He had this before anybody else. He said that an all-pro was going to be traded, and it wasn't Tyreek, basically, or something along those lines. And everybody started to speculate Ramsey, and that's what's been going on behind the scenes. That guy's been right a lot. So some of these accounts can be right. You just have to vet them. All right, let's get
Chris
to
Grier's burner. He's trying to get a following on X.
Should be Chris Grier burns down the Dolphins on X. Is that too many syllables or characters? All right, I need a play-in prediction from you. That's it, because I just did an episode with Brady that's going up. The Heat are in Chicago tomorrow. Josh Giddey is about to have a 100-point, 32 rebound, 47 assist triple-double to beat the one that he just had. No, Brady and I actually just both made our picks for tomorrow's game. I'm sure I will with Greg Sylvander as well tonight. Well, we already discussed, do you want them to get out of the play-in? That's a whole other matter. Do you think they win this game and play Friday night?
Despite logic saying that the Bulls should win, they're at home, they're favored, although very narrowly. I think it's a point or a point and a half. They've beaten the Heat in 3 consecutive meetings. The Heat have seemed to struggle against their pace. Like, despite logic, like if you're handicapping this matchup, like you would understandably make Chicago a favorite by a point or 2, right? I feel like the Heat are going to do the opposite of what a lot of the fans think is going to happen or even want to happen, and I think the Heat are going to win tomorrow night and at least extend their play-in for another game. And again, there's not a whole logic behind it, Ethan, but I don't know. I feel like the Heat are built, they're also built for ending Chicago runs in the postseason. They've done a lot of that over like the last decade and a half. So I'm going to say the Heat are going to win tomorrow night, which is going to annoy a lot of Heat fans. And then the real ones who stand up for the culture are going to say, see that? We're going to get in. We're going to shock the world.
I don't think they win. But I don't think it's because they're not competitive. I said this, and Brady agrees with me. I think they will find some way to F it up in the last 2 minutes. I just can't get past the way they have mangled these games at the end with decision-making and all of that. I do think they have the better roster. I was looking at the roster last year, the play-in. Remember, Jimmy didn't play in that game, and the Heat still won. The Heat's roster is better right now than it was then. By the way, Hawkins had like 22 in that game. Where did that Jaime go? I know Jaime did in the last game of the season, but I mean, if it's any kind of competition this year, he wasn't good. Chicago's roster is not as good as last year's either on paper, but they've actually played better without Levine and at times DeRozan this year. So I'm going to say I don't have the guts. I think they'll mangle the last 2 minutes of this game. Let's get to a couple more comments. So you and I are split on that. I hope you're right, because I just need the downloads. We need more basketball. Dominique Walker, it doesn't matter if Tua throws for 7,000 yards, half the fan base will hit. Yes, well, exactly. That's where we are with Tua.
Just wait until we see my guy Cam Ward just tearing it up in Tennessee in 6 months, and then
you're a Titans fan now. I know that.
Tighten up, Ethan. That's my new slogan. I'm going to get some Titans stuff from my background. I'm going to do half. I got the Kane stuff back there, but I'm going to have like half Titan stuff. Yeah, I'm a full-fledged member now.
Full-fledged Tennessee. This one, I know we'll do the Zion thing. People mention this. There's no worse place in the world for Zion Williamson than Miami.
Oh, yeah, I agree completely. I mean, you think about all of the great food, and he won't be able to eat any of it because Pat Riley's going to have him on the scale every day. It's like Prime 112, all the great Cuban food. Sorry, buddy.
Donno, if you know Zion's history, it wasn't just the food that I was talking about, but yes. Yes, I know. Yeah, fair. All right, that's it for today. We'll talk about the Zion thing in a little bit more depth going forward. We'll see what happens in the play, and we'll be back on that on Thursday. Thanks to our sponsors, All Pro Construction Builders. See what happens with Jalen Ramsey. But again, follow CK Parrott. He was right on top of this one. Have a good one, everybody.